especially on a Friday. Here it's a little bit cold and snowy. I'm still finishing my coffee, as you said, Michelle. So hopefully you all are ready to get started for a great day. As Michelle mentioned, I'm with the Yammer product and engineering team. I head up our customer connection and customer advocacy for the Yammer product team. What I plan to do is just walk you through some of the evolution that we've been going on from a Yammer perspective, and talk to you a little bit about how we're bringing Yammer more closely into our Viva suite of products. As Michelle mentioned, there's a lot of momentum, both with our customers and also here at Microsoft, around Viva. Viva being our employee experience platform, the platform by which we want to bring to you a set of a collection of applications and services to help really create a vibrant employee experience for you and for your employees. So I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna walk through some things. I have some slides. I'm gonna do a little bit of demo as well. So please feel free to put if you have comments or feedback or questions in the chat. Like Michelle said, we love hearing those things. So please feel free to do that. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can along the way. I want to first start with a quick story. If you ever go into a Home Depot and maybe you need some new flooring, maybe you need some new tiling, maybe it's wood floor, whatever you might need, you might run into what's called the Home Depot Measurement Services group. So these are a set of people that help make sure you have the right measurements, the right dimensions, and that you're selecting the right flooring. Now, these folks have also created a community within their Home Depot environment. Now, Home Depot actually rolled out Yammer probably around the January 2021 time. And the flooring group, the flooring community created this space for people to be able to come together and ask questions across the vast hundreds of thousands of associates that work at Home Depot. There's a set of experts that are tasked with helping to connect people within this flooring community. And Susan here is one of those people. But since they've been using Yammer, they've found it to be this vibrant place to really be able to connect people across the vast collection of Home Depot stores to be able to get questions answered, get shared and connect people with knowledge and experts. And you see the quote from Ty here. Ty is the Senior Digital Communications Manager at the Home Depot, and she's in part in charge of communications across these several 100,000 Home Depot associates. But she says, leaders really had this vision for creating a space for store associates to provide feedback, share best practice, share business updates. And Susan is one of these people that's really helping to serve and connect these associates in a very, very strong way. And so I think I wanted to share this just as one example of some of the value that we've seen a lot of our customers getting from Yammer, especially when we think about an organization the size and breadth of the Home Depot, being able to connect not only their corporate staff, but their first line workers, those essential workers that are doing the work in the stores with those people in corporate, sending that feedback back so that they can make decisions and pivot based on customer feedback that they're getting. Some of you might have recently seen a study that we published called the Work Trends Index. I don't know, Michelle, if you have it handy, if somebody could do a quick search for it and put a link to it in the chat. It's a fantastic study that we've done recently. We surveyed about 31,000 people across 31 different countries, just to understand the state of work and to understand where people were at. And these were some of the key themes that came out of that Work Trends Index. And I'm not going to go through all of these things. If you find the index and want to dig into it a little bit more, there's lots of great information and data. And here's some of the data. And I'm going to touch on a few things that I think are pertinent to the discussion that we're going to have today. The first of which is the second one here, which is 54% of managers feel that leadership is out of touch with employees. 74% feel like they're a little bit helpless to even influencing change within their organization. That's key. I even here in Microsoft, I sit in this sort of middle management layer, and I think I work in a pretty good organization, part of the organization, but there are parts of the organization that feel like, I don't think there's understanding of what happens, at the places where people do their work and at the top of the organization. Also at the bottom, 43% of leaders say that relationship building is the greatest challenge within hybrid remote work. And I think maybe a lot of you have experienced this. Many of us perhaps are working from home or working remotely. It's easy to sort of get sucked into teams and be very focused on the specific project work or specific project team and people that you work very close to. And that's great. You need to be able to do those things. But I think a lot of folks have felt that they are missing sort of these bigger connections, these bigger connections they used to make within their organization when they either had physical connections or they had a better ability to meet in person. And so I think what's happened since the pandemic is that people have lacked this ability to create these weak tie connections or to do some of the things that you saw the Home Depot have been able to do, which is to be able to connect a broad network of people together. And so in part, there are elements of the Viva employee experience platform that we feel are going to bring some of these capabilities together and help solve for some of those challenges that you saw on the previous slide. I'm not going to go through all of these things. The purpose of this session isn't necessarily to go through everything that Viva offers, but just in general, these are some of the categories that we see where we think Viva can really bolster the experience that you're providing to your employees. So, really the area that my team is really focused on from the Microsoft Engage, the Viva Engage standpoint, and Yammer. Coming soon will be Viva Amplify. So that connection piece, really helping to connect people within the organization, providing deeper insights into the ways that people work, into individual and team productivity, but also employee engagement through things like Pulse. Being able to track your goals and track things like OKRs or objectives and key results in a more meaningful way. And of course, supporting your employees through growth by being able to connect them with topics and knowledge across the organization, but also deep learning experiences as well. So I want to flip now and just talk a little bit more about the transition, like I said earlier, that we're making from Yammer to Viva Engage. Now, the example that I shared with you about the Home Depot, that's indicative of many of the scenarios and value that a lot of our customers have gotten out of Yammer over the years. And when you look at this slide, many of the things that are depicted here are also things that we've seen a lot of our customers use Yammer for, that it's a place for people to really express themselves and share their best self at work, to come together in community and create that sense of belonging for themselves and for others, to connect with leaders so that they understand what's top of mind from their leaders, and for employees to conversely share back with leaders what's top of mind and important for them. And also as a place to be able to crowdsource answers, crowdsource new ideas. We have a lot of our customers using Yammer for things like innovation campaigns or ideation campaigns. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So these are some of the things that we've seen a lot of our customers use Yammer to great success for. And we feel like a lot of these things are very core to your employee experience. We hear this from our customers. Our customers say, they want to be able to strengthen relationships and build communities, connect their leaders with employees, and share knowledge and answers and ideas. So we're on this evolution of moving Yammer and bringing Yammer more closely into our Viva suite of products. So let me talk a little bit about branding and naming, especially for those of you that perhaps have been using Yammer for quite some time, and also for those of you that are maybe considering introducing Yammer into your organizations. So one of the things that we've done over the past couple of years was to really make sure that Yammer is integrated into the ways in which people are working. In the past, Yammer was this separate destination. It was this web destination that people could go to, but it was sort of out of people's workflow to think about going there. So one of the things hopefully you've noticed over the last couple of years that we've done is we've really tried to integrate Yammer into the ways in which people are working. So for example, if you're an Outlook person, we've made the email notifications that come into Outlook much more rich, much more vibrant, so that you can actually participate in the conversation directly in the body of the email itself. Maybe you're a Teams user. We introduced what we call the Communities app in Teams. That Communities app in Teams was a great way for you to experience the goodness of Yammer and discovery and community right within the hub for teamwork in Teams. So you could access your chat, your Teams, and have communities right in the same view right inside of Teams. So we wanted to really meet people where they're at by bringing Yammer to those various surfaces. Now, with that communities app in Teams, we had a really good foundation, a really good user base of people to start from with that. We had great traction from that. What we found was meeting people where they're at was working. It was great. And so as we took this step to move Yammer into Viva, and with Teams being the platform by which we're delivering many of our Viva experiences, we felt it was prudent to go ahead and just rename the Communities app in Teams to be Viva Engaged. And I want to talk a little bit about, again, the evolution of what that's begun to look like. If you look here at Viva Learning, you see we have this sort of gradient background. You see this top level navigation. Same thing with Viva Insights. You have this, you have some cards here, but again, you have this background header and this top level navigation. And when we introduced the change from the Communities app in Teams to Viva Engage, we wanted to capture a lot of those similar sensibilities to make sure that the experience of Viva Engage was consistent with some of the other Viva experiences itself. So the change that you're seeing here of bringing Yammer into Viva is, number one, the Viva Engage experience that you're seeing here is Yammer. It is all powered by Yammer. The same, if you are a member in a community on Yammer, it'll reflect here. If you're following a certain person, that will also reflect here. Things like the feed experience, all of these things are powered by Yammer. The Yammer experience, for the time being, will still maintain and still be run as Yammer. Same thing with the mobile experiences. I will say that there is some discussion that we're having as to what it will look like or what it could look like for all of the Yammer properties to be renamed Viva Engage. Now, as you know, any type of branding effort like this takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of time. So we want to be mindful about it, especially for our existing Yammer customers. We didn't want to flip the script too quickly and just rename everything and sort of pull the rug out of our existing Yammer customers. So I just ask that you be patient with us for a little while we figure out the branding piece. But what I'd also like to reassure you on is that regardless of what these things are called, whether it's called Yammer, whether it's called Viva Engage, whether it's called Peanut Butter and Jelly, what we're really focused on is making sure that we help solve for those scenarios that I talked about earlier. Really helping your leaders better connect with your employees better connecting with leaders, creating that sense of belonging through community, and also helping your employees connect through knowledge and expertise. So at the core, those are the scenarios that we're really focused on. So I want to switch and just talk about what some of these updates mean and just familiarize you with some of the changes that we made within the Viva Engage experience. Again, this experience within Teams being branded Viva Engage. When you come to the Viva Engage home experience, you're met, again, for those of you that are familiar with Yammer, you're met with that very familiar feed experience. So this is the algorithmic feed that we use to understand the communities that you're a member of, people that you might follow, other signals around how you might be interacting with other people across your Microsoft 365 suite. We use all those things as signals to inform relevancy within the feed so that we bring to you a feed that's meaningful to you as an end user within Viva Engage. I can still access all my communities. We moved the list of communities that used to exist here on the left rail. We actually moved it over to the right rail to just provide us some other affordances for future navigation. But we also think that it helps provide a little bit more focus on the feed experience, itself. In fact, these are contributions from your colleagues. These are contributions from people you work with. So we really wanted to emphasize the feed experience and consuming knowledge and expertise from the feed. But you can still access your communities, and once you're in a community, you'll notice that it's still a very familiar interface as far as once you're in the community. Same feed experience. I can still filter the posts. I can still make my posts. All those things remain the same. A new capability that we released recently is called Storyline. Now, in talking with a lot of our customers during the pandemic, and especially talking with leaders, we heard the following. Leaders would tell us that they had a message that they wanted to get out, especially during the pandemic. They wanted to help reassure their employees. They wanted to help their employees understand, how to stay safe in their respective work environments. But sometimes a community, posting to a community, maybe posting an announcement to a community, didn't necessarily match the sensibilities that they had with how they wanted to broadcast a message to their organization. Now, Yammer has always had this notion of followership, but I don't think we've done a great job over the years of really having a great payoff for following people within the network. And so, what we heard from leaders was they said, we want to be able to create a followership within our organization, be able to broadcast a message to those people specifically. Then we'd hear from corporate communications say, yes, we want that, and we also want to be able to prescribe who to follow within the organization, or perhaps maybe have everybody automatically follow the CEO so that when the CEO makes a broadcast or makes a post that everybody in the organization would receive that. And so that's really where Storyline was born out of. And it's not necessarily a new concept, but when you look at what Storyline is, so I'm on Megan's profile here. And if I look at her profile, these posts, rather than being associated to a community, which is a key construct in Yammer, but rather than these posts being associated to a community, they're instead associated with her own profile itself. And so here you see she's praised somebody. She's praised Isaiah for a job well done. She's hashtagged it with above and beyond. That's a campaign that's running. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. She's asking for some discussion around hybrid work. So she's trying to engage other people in a conversation here as well. But what you see here is this is a way for employees, but also for leaders to be able to share a perspective that's unique to them and that's connected to them as an individual within the organization. So Storyline is now available to you in your tenants. It is something that you may need to enable. It's not on by default. So as a administrator, you might need to turn it on. So just know that. We also recently introduced stories as well. And, if you look at the demographic of our workforce today, there's a demographic of people that have grown up and really in a way that they've communicated in a very visual manner. And so we wanted to bring that experience into Viva Engage and into Yammer as well. So if I click on a few of these, this is the homepage, and what will happen is you'll see this stories carousel as people that you're following are posting stories. You'll see those stories in your home feed. And so I can click on here and you can see just an example of what some of these stories look like. But again, this is really meant to provide a way for, a more visual way of sharing information or sharing knowledge. What we've also seen is that leaders have really taken to this just to do a quick update, to share a quick update on what's happening within their organization, what's top of mind. Some of you might know who Jeff Teeper is. I think his nickname is the Godfather of SharePoint or something like that. But he's also our CVP for Microsoft Teams and also OneDrive and SharePoint. What he does is he goes to Viva Engage every week on Friday. He posts what he calls a Fast Friday update, and he just posts a quick update on the things that he worked on this week, maybe some of the product decisions he and his team were working through, what some of the customers were that he met with. But it's a great insight into who he is as a leader, what he does as a leader, and he invites questions, and it's a great forum for people to ask questions of Jeff that they're not, maybe they're not clear on our strategy, maybe they want just some insight into a customer meeting that he had. But it's a great way that he uses Yammer to really humanize the work that he does. Another example, maybe many of you have used Fast Track. And have engaged with Fast Track for some of our deployment services. Catherine Bozier is our CVP, our corporate vice president for Fast Track. She actually also uses Storyline and stories in a very similar way to Jeff, where she'll do a quick update, quick top of mind, what she's focused on. But she's also interjecting what we see on her Storyline. She's also interjecting things like, well, this is a few months ago now, but it was when school started. She posted a picture of her girls and her middle school age girls going back to school, and she put a little bit in there about her life and her experience as a working mother. She also shared a little bit in some other posts. She shares some work that she's doing around diversity and inclusion. So in addition to sharing things that are top of mind for her from a business perspective, she's sharing things that are happening to her from a work life perspective. And we start to get this really holistic view of who Catherine is, what she represents as a leader, and what she represents as an individual within our organization, which is a great view for us as employees to understand about our leaders. I'm going to pause and see if anybody has, we have a lot of people on the call, which is fine. If anybody has, maybe I can take one or two questions about Storyline or stories or the Viva Engage update before we move on.
I've always wondered when you could use, when to use Yammer and when to use Teams. I noticed in some of your transitions there, it actually, the titles changed to Microsoft Teams, like in the storylines when you dug into that. And just basically, I think we're using Yammer in the, first generation way. So really trying to learn more about how we can, get our users to engage in it more in the more modern way. So to be able to speak to them about it.
Yeah, thanks, Neil, for that question. That's a great question and something that comes up quite a bit. There are a bunch of nuances around how Teams and Yammer are different, but I'll make a general statement in that Teams is great for people that you know. It's great for the chats, like the one-to-one or one-to-few chats that you might do. Maybe you're in a team and you're working on a project and it's sort of very goal-oriented. I think those are great uses for Teams. Obviously, meetings like the one we're in today also shine as well. Yammer is great for and this is a very generalized statement, but Yammer is great for people you don't know. It's also great for community, where community doesn't really have an endpoint, right? If you have let's say a sustainability community or a safety community within your network, it's not like that ends, not like you're going to stop caring about safety within your organization. So there's always going to be, ongoing conversations and best practices to share around things like that. So, for things that are everlasting, long lasting, where you need to connect with people that you don't know, like think about, again, the Home Depot experience. If somebody has a question, they could maybe text somebody, they could, chat somebody, but when they really need to cast a wide net across the hundreds of thousands of people that might be able to answer their question, Yammer is that place to do that. So again, if I'm boiling it down very simply, Teams is great for people you know. Yammer is great for people you don't know. And beyond that, there's a bunch of nuances that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here around search and even numbers of people or membership and things like that. But that's sort of a broad characterization. Hopefully that helps a little bit, Neil.
Yeah, because just real quick, the food for thought here, like people live in email, right? We try to give them better ways to function so they don't have to live in email, but pulling people out of email is very challenging. Now we're seeing the same thing with Teams, pulling people out of Teams and separating that people try to start doing everything in Teams. And so I see a good application for Yammer.
Well, the other thing, and I'm not going into the full demo of some of the full capabilities here, but we sort of came to a crossroads, Neil, where we said, you know what, we shouldn't necessarily fight against that inertia of people being in email or people being in Teams. Instead, like I said, we wanted to meet people where they're at. And so if you were to ever look at some of the Yammer email notifications that we send now, like I said earlier, they're interactive. You can actually react to a post right in the body of the email message itself. You can respond, you can reply, you can participate in the thread right in the body of the email message itself. Same thing within Teams. You can get notifications for Yammer announcements or Viva Engage announcements, or if you've been mentioned in something, you can get notifications in Teams of that, and then still participate inside of Teams. So like I said earlier, we wanted to meet people where they're at. And if people are making choices about working in Outlook or working in Teams, we're not necessarily fighting against that. We're acknowledging that choice that they're making.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah. And so around Storyline, just give you some ideas to help you think about getting your leaders on Storyline. You can encourage them to share updates, like I said earlier, share photos, videos. Maybe they're getting out and traveling a little bit more, connecting with customers, connecting with people, in various locations. What should you post? So these are just some examples of things that we've been doing internally here at Microsoft. Here's Scott. We did a give campaign. Scott's one of our engineering leaders here at Microsoft. He posted, and we did a philanthropic campaign around giving. And so he was doing a post where he's matching other people. And in fact, this post, you see, it has 8,000 people that saw it, and we only have a couple hundred people in our organization, but you can see the reach and distribution that an announcement here has. Here's an example of Jeff and doing a quick 5-minute update. Here you can see it's a video that he does, his 5-minute update. And then again, this is a quick example of Catherine and the update that she does. So Viva Engage, the new experience is now available to you all inside of Teams. So we made this update in place for anybody that had the Communities app in Teams. This automatically updated in place. You didn't need to do anything specific to get this update. It was automatically rolled out to you. Just some interesting stats here that across all of our customers, there are 1.7 billion connections that are made, person-to-person connections made across all of our networks. 83% of employee connections are different from the month before, and every month there are 450 million new connections. So back earlier on that first or second slide that I shared, that concern that leaders have around people being able to make connections, Viva Engage and Yammer is really helping to facilitate that. And again, with Storyline and Stories, so Storyline is available to you today. Storyline has only been GA, generally available, for a little over a month. And in fact, I need to update these numbers, but there's already 3 million monthly active Storyline users that we have, and we have about 400,000 daily active Storyline users. So what I'm seeing is that we're seeing a lot of people that maybe perhaps didn't use Yammer previously, but they sort of connect to this notion of posting something that matches a sensibility that's connected to them. Sort of like posting a link, posting an update on LinkedIn, or posting something on Twitter. If you're going to post something on Twitter, you better do it this weekend before it burns down. But people have this notion, they have this connection of understanding, posting something that's attached to them. And I think that's some of the sensibility that Storyline is bringing. Stories just went into public preview. So if it's something you want to try out within your network, it is something that if you're an admin, you can enable, or you can ask your admin to enable stories within your environment today. This is just a snapshot of some of the recent updates that we've rolled out. Like I said, the Viva Engage app, Storyline, and Stories. The question and answer in Teams, I don't know if any of you have experienced this at all, but within Teams, we have a new question and answer experience within the Teams meeting, which is actually powered by Yammer behind the scenes. We get into some of these meetings, especially one like this one, where we have hundreds of people in it, and I see the chat going. It's a little bit difficult to follow, especially for a meeting this size. So a Q&A experience inside of a meeting like this really helps to create durability of a conversation for you to track questions and answers that are happening from the audience much better. So the new Q&A experience is available in Teams. Encourage you to check that out. The ability to upvote answers. So if you're familiar with the question post type that we have in Yammer, you can upvote answers if maybe you need to crowdsource the best answer in a given thread. Other things like we're working through, if we have a process called native mode, cross geo Azure B2B guest is coming, dark mode, a bunch of other things. So these are things that we've delivered probably over the last 6 to 9 months plus. And so hopefully you've been gaining value out of those things as well. All right. So just to come back to this really quickly, again, our focus is really on these types of scenarios, these value propositions. We want to really enable these things broadly across your organization. And if you're familiar with the overall Viva model, you know that there is some base level capabilities that are available to you. And by the way, everything that I've shown you so far with regards to Storyline, with regards to Stories, the Viva Engage experience, all the existing capabilities that you have for Yammer today are all included in your existing M365 investment. So if you're E3, E5, or any of the A SKUs or any of the F SKUs, everything that I've shown you so far is included in all of those licensing plans. What I'm going to go through next is, like I said, with Viva, there is they don't necessarily call it this, but there's a premium element to the Viva suite of products. So for example, there are things like Viva Insights, Viva Topics, Viva Learning that you can license additionally as sort of premium licenses as part of Viva. So what I'm going to share with you next is our capabilities that will fall under our premium bundle of capabilities within Viva. And I'll talk a little bit about pricing and licensing and availability as we go along here. But let's just first talk through some of the capabilities that we're delivering and some of the reasons why we're thinking about these things, and then I'll come back to the licensing and pricing piece. So again, when we focus, some of the areas that we're focused on, first of all, is helping your employees better connect with leaders in your organization. one of the first capabilities that we want to help bring is this notion of auto followership. Like I said, when we talk with corporate communicators, there's a big appetite to want to be able to set up auto followership for a specific audience of people. So, maybe it's not only the CEO, of course, the CEO, but maybe it's a CFO. Maybe you want everybody within the finance organization to automatically follow the chief financial officer. So when Michelle joins the organization as an accountant, she automatically starts following the CFO and can get all of those notifications and announcements from that CFO. I'm going to dig into some of these things a little bit more deeply, like Ask Me Anything or Leader Analytics. By the way, I'm just curious, just as a straw poll here. It's already on here, but I was just curious how many people understand the term AMA. It's sort of a colloquial thing that Reddit started, but it is a capability that we want to enhance. We've had a lot of our customers do things like Yam Jams or these Ask Me Anything experiences, but we want to make it a bit more robust and managed in nature. And so we have, like I said, we have a lot of our customers that do these sorts of events where they, obviously we have our customers that do these live video-based broadcasts, which Yammer and Viva Engage can fully support. So if you need to broadcast a video event through to a community, that's something that you can do today. In fact, we do that here at Microsoft. So Satya does a regular town hall or question and answer event that he broadcasts video, and he brings other folks from the senior leadership team, and people ask and answer questions during that. So that's certainly, that live video element is something that you can do today. But also in the hybrid world that we're in, there's a need to do these sort of asynchronous type of Ask Me Anything or town hall events. And that's really where this falls in. And so what this Ask Me Anything experience will allow leaders to do is to create a space, create an event for people to be able to ask questions. And it'll also be available so that they can moderate the questions that come in. And by the way, it's not necessarily up to the leader to have to do these moderation actions, but they're delegates, so they can set up delegates. Maybe it's a corp comms person, maybe it's an executive admin, but those delegates will be able to take these actions to set up the AMA, but also do the moderation of the AMA itself. And so as I scroll through here, you'll see a little bit of what the AMA feed looks like. People will be able to, like I said, ask questions. But the other thing is that we'll introduce the ability to upvote questions within the feed. So if I see a question in here and I'm also interested in wanting to get that question answered, I can upvote that to help the moderators and help the leaders really understand the popularity of a given question. We have a lot of our corp comms friends, maybe some of you are on this call, that after these AMAs, they tell us we need to do a summary. We need to report out to our leaders, what the activity was around this event. And so one thing that we'll work on over time is creating this automated AMA summary. What were some of the highlights? How many people participated? How many views were there? What was the sentiment of the AMA? And so we'll provide this summary card or the summary information that you can then take and either just flip it over to your leaders, or maybe you need to do some massaging. But ultimately, the goal here is that we want to provide some element of a summary so that our corporate communicator friends can communicate the value of the AMA back to their leaders. The other piece that we are working on in this scenario is what we call Leadership Corner. And again, what I talked about earlier, remember that stat we talked about where the middle management feels like leadership is out of touch. We want to create a space so that people, that employees in your organization, number one, know exactly who their leaders are and specific to them, but also have a way to engage directly with them in a two-way dialogue. This is, again, something we also hear from many of our customers, that they need to facilitate and better create this back and forth dialogue with their leaders. So the value around Leadership Corner here is that you as an organization will, number one, be able to define who those leaders are within your organization. Secondly, you'll be able to define the audiences that match to those leaders, so that when Michelle comes to this Leadership Corner, that she sees the specific set of leaders that are relevant to her based on where she sits within the organization. I'm going to see a different view of leaders because Michelle and I sit in different parts of Microsoft. But the opportunity here is for you to create a very customized place for your employees to come to see that view of leaders. And when they come here, they're going to be able to see the post, the activity that those leaders are contributing to your network. So things like their stories. You see, Bruno has been identified as a leader here. So you'll see when Bruno posted his storyline, we'll aggregate that into this leadership corner feed for these people. Beth is identified as a leader here, so we'll bring Beth's storyline content into here. In addition, any posts that they might be doing in communities and other places across the network will also show up in the leadership corner feed itself. So again, the problem that we're trying to solve here, especially in the hybrid world that we're working in, inability to really connect directly with leaders physically, a lack of understanding or knowledge of who leaders are within the organization, but also being able to connect once you know who those leaders are, to be able to connect directly with them and engage with them, and for leaders to engage back with employees in your organization. Now, the other piece that we really want to make sure that we improve upon is the level of data and analytics that you have about activity within your networks. And this is an area that this is my personal opinion, but we've underinvested in over time. But I think you'll be really excited to see some of the ways in which we're going to be improving the analytics that you have about the activity that's happening within your network. First of all, is around personal analytics. So for me as an individual, or for me as a leader in the organization, I'll be able to have some information about my reach, how many people have viewed content that I've shared, how many followers I have, how much of my audience has engaged with me. What are some of the top conversations that I've started? What are some of the top conversations that I've been participating in? What's the breakdown of reactions and top comments on my posts? Where do I engage most? Do I do it in communities? Is it my storyline? Which communities am I participating in most? So this will be a nice view of personal analytics connected to the activity that you're doing within your network. The next area is also, this will be more focused around the leader persona. They'll be able to see their own audience analytics. So going back to that CFO example, the CFO will be able to see within the finance organization, what does activity look like within his or her organization? And by the way, this is again where the delegates will come into play. The delegates will also have access to the information, because are leaders actually going to go in here and look at this? Maybe, maybe not, but we certainly think that their delegates or corp comms folks will want to go in here and see this or have access to this. So we'll start to inject things like sentiment. What's the sentiment of the conversations that are happening within your organization? What are some of the themes? So I could click on work-life balance and be able to see some of the themes and trends that are happening. What are the specific conversations that are happening around work-life balance? So we can dig into some of those things. If you're sending announcements out, what's the reach of those announcements that are going out? What's the audience? What's the activity of the audience within? Oh, actually, let's see. Sorry, I skipped one here. What are some of the top conversations within the audience, and what's the sentiment around specific conversations that are happening within your organization? So a rich set of analytics for leaders to be able to understand the activity that's going on within the body of their organization. What are the most active communities that are happening within that leader's organization? So that's the leader scenario. So just to recap, things like auto followership, AMAs to better drive active engagement and conversation with leaders and employees, leadership corner for better leader identification and audience interaction and engagement, and then a rich set of analytics so that you can understand the activity that's happening around that leadership engagement. The next area of focus for us is around campaigns. And again, this is something that we see a lot of our customers doing. I mentioned, last month here at Microsoft was our annual Give campaign, #Give. And so this is, maybe it's a philanthropic campaign like that one. Maybe it's something like this, where we see a lot of our customers doing things like a recognition campaign. I mentioned earlier, we have organizations that do innovation or ideation campaigns. Again, these are things that our customers have done over time, and you can still do those today just by adding a hashtag to a post and sort of promoting it. You can run these sort of campaigns today. But we also, again, want to make this a much more robust and managed experience for you as administrators and as community owners of your network. So what we're creating, number one, is a bespoke, a dedicated landing page for this campaign. So as a campaign manager, and I'll go through here and just show you what some of this experience will look like, but there'll be an ability for you to be able to create these campaigns, and you'll have a dashboard to be able to see the different campaigns that are happening across your organization. You'll be able to set a specific goal for the organization. So again, maybe like the example we were just showing, maybe it's a recognition campaign. So you want to track the number of praises that are being given. Or maybe it's a philanthropic campaign, like I was describing earlier. You want to track the amount of donations or volunteer hours. So you'll be able to identify that as well. And this just depicts what the experience will look like for somebody to be able to participate in the campaign. So let's say Lydia wants to recognize Ashley for a job well done. She can post that to her storyline. She can hashtag it with above and beyond. And you'll notice that given that this is an official hashtag, that an official campaign, we'll put a little badge next to it to indicate that it's sort of an official campaign within your organization. She can post the message. Of course, it'll post to her storyline. It'll get distributed to the various feeds for people that might be following Lydia so that they can see that Lydia has praised Ashley. But we'll also take that post and bring it into that campaign page itself. So any post that gets hashtagged with above and beyond, we'll bring it together into the singular campaign feed so that everybody following the campaign has the ability to see that, regardless of whether somebody posted it to their storyline or if somebody posted it to a community. We'll aggregate those posts together into the singular view. As an employee, I can also follow the campaign. So if I want to get updates on what's happening in the campaign, I'll be able to do that. But following the campaign also gives me the ability to spread the word and let other people know about the campaign. And that's really what campaigns are, right? We want them to be a bit viral. We want to let other people know about it. So by following the campaign, we'll also give an opportunity for you to, put some decorations on your profile to let people know about it. So you can have this sash or this banner on your profile. Also, have a badge on your profile page so that people know that you're actively participating in this campaign. You can let other people know about it as well. Just like with the leader scenario, we want to make sure that we're providing some analytics to help you understand, how the campaign is doing. What's the reach of your campaign? How many people are participating in the campaign? How many followers are there? What are the top conversations that are happening? Maybe you want to participate or do something about those. Who are some of the top content creators? Who are the people that are participating and contributing most to the campaign? What do reactions look like across the various campaign posts? Where are the posts coming from? Are they coming from communities? Are they coming from storyline? You'll see that breakdown as well. And also, where are people coming from? Where's the traffic for the campaign coming from? What leaders are participating in the campaign? This is an important aspect as well, is that we want to make sure that leaders are engaged in these things. That's a heavy signal of engagement is when leaders participate. And beyond these analytics, by the way, this will be sort of the first iteration of the analytics that we provide. As we continue to iterate on these analytics, we want to also provide some coaching. We don't want to provide just data just for data's sake, but eventually over time we'll provide some coaching so that these data points become actionable for you. So we'll provide you with some coaching on how to make the reach of your campaign better, how to make your campaign more sustainable, things like that. So that'll come over time, but like I said, we want to improve some of the data and analytics that support the ways that our customers run campaigns today. The last area that we're focused on, and then I'll close out for questions, apropos is this new area that we call answers. And so answers will be a new experience within Viva Engage, where people can go to get questions answered within their organization. Very much akin to an experience that you might have on Quora or maybe Stack Overflow or maybe even sort of a Reddit type experience. But we really want this place to be a hub for people to be able to ask questions, connect with experts, connect with topics in the organization, and of course, get those questions answered. When you first come to this experience, you'll be met with a feed of questions. And this feed of questions is machine learning driven. It'll be based on an understanding that we have of topics that you might follow. It might be based on the role that you have within the organization. So we might present you with a set of questions and answers based on the role that you have. Maybe we think you can help answer questions, or maybe we think there's a set of questions and answers that are already given that might help you do your job better. But one of the first jobs that we want to do is actually prevent you from having to ask a question at all. And so as you start typing a question here, we'll use some machine learning, we'll use some intelligence to understand the questions that already exist within the platform to present to you a set of questions and answers that might already exist so that we can help you connect with the knowledge that you need, get the answer you need, and move on with your day. So that'd be the first thing is helping to prevent you from having to ask a question. But maybe you still need to ask that question. And so we'll, of course, give you that ability to as well. Pardon me. And then we'll also give you the ability to connect that question to Viva topics as well. So this is where some of that integration across some of the Viva modules comes into place. Here, being able to connect to topics so that this question now is connected to the broader knowledge base that sits within your organization. By connecting to Viva topics, we also know who some of the experts are around given topics. So we can route that question to the appropriate experts to help expedite the answering of that question as well. Once you ask the question, you'll see that question on your feed. So you'll have on your My Activity feed. So you'll have a great way to be able to keep up on those questions that you're participating in or those questions that you've asked. We'll bring a lot of the same characteristics that we have in Yammer question and answer into this experience as well. So being able to mark a best answer, being able to upvote answers within the question stream, but also we'll bring that ability to upvote questions into this experience as well. We also know that badging and recognition is an important part of this platform, so we'll start to incorporate this as well. So as you're starting to contribute and answer questions and help your colleagues, you'll have an ability to be awarded with badges as well, so that there's that sense of accomplishment, that sense of connection there. Again, just like the other areas, we want to provide a set of analytics to help you understand the efficacy of having a platform like this. How many people are you helping? How much time is being saved within your organization? How many answers have you answered? How many have you participated in? What are the most engaging questions that you've participated in? Again, understanding your role, your contributions, where you're helping other people in your organization. I could see taking a screenshot of this and including it in your performance review as a way to demonstrate your role in the organization. What are the different topics that you're engaged in? At an administrator level, administrators will have access to these global answers analytics to see, across the entirety of the platform, how much time is being saved, what's the engagement look like, across the entirety of the platform, which questions are most active within here. Lots of other things, who some of the most active badge earners are, who some of the most engaged users are within answers. So overall, again, another set of analytics that we think will help support you in your answers endeavors here. So just to recap, the primary areas of focus for us with some of our new Viva Premium Suite capabilities are around leadership, around campaigns, and also around answers as well. Our plan for release of all these is going to be the first part of the next calendar year. In fact, mid to late January is when we plan on going GA with all of these capabilities. And just to be clear, all of these capabilities will require the Viva Suite license in order for your organization to be able to take advantage of these. So if you have questions about that, feel free to post them in the chat or speak up when we come to questions here. But hopefully that's helpful. I can leave this up here just so you can see just the overall view of what's available today to existing Microsoft 365 customers. Again, what's part of your existing Microsoft 365 investment, E3, E5, A SKUs, F SKUs are all included here. And then below this gray area are the Viva Suite capabilities that I just talked through. So we have a couple of minutes left, Michelle. I don't know if we want to take time for any outstanding questions, or I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Steve. There's a couple interesting ones that I've captured out of here. I think this is a good one, which is what do you think is the major driving force or variable for using or deploying Yammer? Whether it's related to business employee count, geographic distance, and does Yammer have a use in small business?
So I'd say the value is yes to those things around geographic distribution. Certainly population matters. For smaller, certainly Yammer, I know organizations as small as 30 that use Yammer quite effectively. So it's really up to you. I think in the smaller organizations, I think it's up to you to determine, what the value is of having a platform like this. I think it does benefit from scale, certainly. So the larger the organization, I think the greater benefit that Viva, Engage, and Yammer have. But really, overall, I think the benefit, and one of the things we say about this platform is that it's sort of open by default. And this gets back to a little bit about the question of Yammer versus Teams, by the way. Do a little experiment, especially if you're using Yammer today. Just do a little experiment. Go into Yammer someday and type in something like, I don't know, marketing, or just something that's sort of a broad term, right? What you'll see by doing that search is that you have access, when you do a search for marketing, you see the conversations that are happening across the entirety of your network, across the entirety of the public communities and conversations that are happening, regardless of whether you're a member of that community. If you do that search for marketing in Teams, you'll only be able to see the chats from the channels and teams that you're a part of, or the chats that you're a part of. Even if there are public teams that exist where marketing is being discussed, you won't see those because that's just not the way that Teams works. So when it comes to discoverability and search, I think that's the other difference. That was one of the nuances that I was referring to earlier, I think, when Neil was asking the question. But yeah, I think openness, discovery, scale, I think those are some of the big value propositions. And I'll share with you just a quick example. I can't name the company, but during the unfortunate time of the Queen's passing, there was a retail organization based in the UK that really needed a way to bring their employees together during a really difficult time in that country's history for people to come together and grieve. Their CEO actually posted in their Yammer network his feelings, his thoughts, his reactions to the Queen's death. And it really, they had like 50,000 views in the first hour of posting that message. They had thousands of replies, people sending their condolences. But what actually happened after that was that it spun off and people started to have very specific concerns about their own job and their own stores. What was going to happen during the funeral? Were we going to close? All these questions. So they quickly had to pivot, and the CEO, the comms team, they got together. They put together a playbook on how they were going to handle the next phase of the grieving and the funeral. And then they came back. They said, all right, here's what's going to happen. And what they said was that being able to do that at a mass scale, being able to distribute knowledge so quickly and get everybody on the same page across 70,000 a group of 70,000 store associates was sort of magical for them.
Awesome. A couple questions. I think we're going to save some of them. Maybe you can go in the chat and answer them. But there was one more question, and I had it when I raised my hand earlier around Leadership Corner. What drives the leaders a user sees? And is it organizational? Is it locked down? And I think of stories as well. Is it locked down to certain people, or can it be open? Like what is that, I guess, intended to be?
Yeah, specifically for Leadership Corner, when you first set up Leadership Corner, as an organization, you'll need to go in and define who those leaders are. We're gonna go down the route of looking at Azure Active Directory and making some inferences from that. We still could do that, but in a lot of cases, a lot of our customers, their directories aren't super clean, so it wouldn't be entirely accurate. So they'd need to do some manual intervention anyway. So Michelle, by the way, we're going through this here at Microsoft, where we're going through an exercise of defining who a given leader is, so and then sort of anointing that person as a leader within Viva Engage, and then setting up their audiences. And by setting up their audiences, we can use existing constructs that you might already have, using Microsoft 365 existing groups that you might have, using DLs. So you'll be able to pull those things in to be able to define that audience for those given leaders within your organization.
Awesome. And then can anyone create a story?
Yeah, today anybody can create a story. Like I said, it's in public preview today, so you'll need to enable it if it's not enabled. But once it's enabled, yes, anybody will be able to create a story. And by the way, all of the any files, any video, any photos that are included as part of a storyline or even a storyline as part of a story or storyline post, those get stored in OneDrive. So you can rest assured that all those files adhere to any compliance and controls that you have for OneDrive and SharePoint.
All right, I think we'll take one last question, give everybody a couple minutes back before we begin the rest of the sessions. Tech 23, you have your hand raised.
Great information. Thank you for all this. But for Engage, will you folks at Microsoft have like any like I mean, I know you're sharing this thing right now, but will you guys have any like customer facing like best practices with this feature? I know you said you're doing some things internally, but will you folks have some best practices page to share with folks, you know, who want to follow?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll actually post the link in the chat to our existing materials. That's a great question. So, and like I said earlier, you know, we're going through this rebranding thing. So anytime you see something that says Yammer, think Viva Engage. Anytime you see something that says Viva Engage, think Yammer. So we do have a set of existing adoption-based materials that we've created that are focused on the scenarios, but you'll see them branded as Yammer Tech 23. So just know that you know, they all apply. The principles will still apply overall. So I'll put a link in the chat here in just a little bit. I did want to quickly answer Rachel's question about sort of like, you know, will questions be impact a call ticket system? Over time, one of the things that we really want to do is, you know, make answers a hub for answers within your organization. And obviously, the question asking happens in a lot of different places. Let's say, you know, ServiceNow, Teams, other places. So one of the things that we want to do is, you know, work with some of our partners, you know, specifically ServiceNow would be a great one, to pull in questions and answers so that, you know, this becomes a central destination for all that activity.
Awesome. All right. Well, everybody give Steve a great round of applause. Thank you, Steve, for your time. As always, we really appreciate you coming to the Minnesota M365 user group and sharing all the great wealth of knowledge in Yammer and now Viva Engage.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Everyone else,
day,
yeah, thank you. Everyone else, feel free, go ahead and join your next session. You'll find it at our website, so click on the session that you care about, and you should see a join here link. And have a great rest of the workshop, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.